Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about what is Sony going to do in response to the Microsoft Bethesda deal that just happened. Needless to say, this was one of the biggest purchases in gaming history ever. And right now there's much debate about what is going to happen with Bethesda games on PS5? Are they going to be exclusive or not? I even made a whole video on this topic, so check out the card right now. I linked it right here for you guys to watch if you guys haven't. But anyways, please, before we do start, hit that like button. If you guys have been holding out some anger, some frustrations, take it out on the like button right now. Hit that shit like you've never hit anything in your life before. I really do appreciate it. And it's therapeutic because, like I said, you can just let out all your frustrations by hitting that like button. But that's just my suggestion. Now, make sure you stay to the end of the video if you want to understand everything going on with how Sony could potentially respond to Microsoft. This is going to be a very in-depth video about everything Sony could do, all the different companies they could potentially buy, and the ones that make sense. I'm also going to give at the end my opinion on what I think would probably be better for them to do and why. So if you guys like that, like I said, subscribe, stick for more. I will have more stuff like this in the future. I try to make it interesting and do my research well. But to get started, so while getting started here, I just wanted to address this, and I think it's a fair question to ask. Is Sony going to respond to Microsoft? And do they even need to? And honestly, I think it's fair to ask because we don't really know exactly. But I think, hence this video, Sony is going to respond. Not only did they previously have plans for this, and I'm going to try and provide all the images so you guys can see, but there were articles written about Sony's corporate release recently, and which they revealed that they're planning to buy more studios to expand their first party output and their first party studios. So it's only natural, this is still happening even more so now. Also, Sony is just very competitive in the games division. This is their biggest division at Sony Corporation. So it only makes sense they want to stay on top. So obviously, if they have to spend and open their wallet and spending a lot of money, it only makes sense for them to invest in their most successful branch of Sony. So immediately, it warrants a video such as this one where we go in depth into what studios Sony could potentially add to its first party suite. But I think it's also important to discuss their position right now. Sony's in a very strong position right now, so this is not something that they have to do in order to survive. This is not like Microsoft completely abolished them right now. Microsoft is playing the catch-up game, so at the end of the day, Sony still has the advantage. PlayStation is still preferably the console that most people go to around the world. The only place where the Xbox really competes is in North America with the United States and stuff, but pretty much worldwide, Xbox is still catching up. So realistically, this isn't something that has to happen yesterday or something like that for Sony to survive. If anything, Microsoft getting this aggressive with acquisitions of so many studios in the past 3 years is only a compliment to Sony's first party studios, because clearly they're, in comparison, a lot more stale when it comes to their output, so they have to try and compete. And honestly, I think it was a great move by Microsoft. This only shows that competition is getting heated. But now let's just look at some stats about Sony and Microsoft so we can look at this realistically. How much money do they have? How much money could they potentially spend? And what's realistic for us to look at without having that rose gold filter of fanboys and stuff? Because, come on, we're making this video to be as factual as we can. I will try to put information so you guys can see for yourself, but let's just look at the facts right now. Sony's market cap is $94.3 billion, which is a lot, ton of money. But compared to Microsoft, Microsoft has a market cap of $1.58 trillion. That is insane. It's so much more, a lot more. And now let's look at how much they actually have liquid, how much they can actually just take out of the bank right now and spend. Sony has about $33 billion as of 2020, and I'm gonna show a screenshot, Microsoft has approximately 136 billion. So still a lot more, a lot more definitely, and this makes Microsoft just like a lot easier to purchase studios like this. That's how they just casually spent 7.5 billion dollars on one of the biggest game publishers in the world right now, just like that, without anybody ever seeing it coming. So when it comes to just buying studios left and right, if Sony started attacking back by just buying a lot of studios, I think it's safe to say they just would not be able to win. Microsoft has a lot more capital, and the CEO of Microsoft has been very supportive with, allocating a lot of money towards the gaming division, which is very surprising because that wasn't the case back then. So yeah, it just isn't very smart for Sony to go this route because Microsoft just has way too much money. But now let's actually look at the games that Sony can realistically buy, the games and companies, and we're going to try and estimate their budget based on how much money they have and how much money these companies cost. And we're going to get started right here. As a side note though, before we do get started, I know many of you are probably going to start saying Bluepoint and Housemarque. So as just a given, I think these are very, very likely that they're going to be, if not already, acquired by Sony. So I'm not even going to really officially include them in this list because, I think it's just given. It's only a matter of time before they joined the Sony Worldwide Studios. So we're just going to go into the crazier purchases that they could do as a response to Bethesda or something like that, because they're probably going to try and be aggressive with that, especially since that was their plan beforehand. Anyways, let's start with Konami. Konami is 5.5 billion market cap as of right now, 2020. So if Sony wanted to grab them now, that wouldn't be the highest price, especially compared to the other companies in this list. And there are many things possible with a Konami purchase. They're a very large company. They have a lot of assets outside of just gaming, but the main goal will probably just be the games. Konami hasn't really been developing games recently, and the last game they developed, like AAA, was that Metal Gear multiplayer game that did pretty bad. So the development teams have been pretty weak recently. So if Sony buys them, it'll mostly be for the Metal Gear IP, the Silent Hill IP, and other IPs like Yu-Gi-Oh and Suikoden and stuff like that. Many people, if Sony bought this company, many people would go insane of happiness because that means that they can actually make games for these, and Konami doesn't. But it just isn't probably much value because Sony won't probably get many development tools and teams and stuff to go along with it like Bethesda had. And I don't know if this is something that Sony's gonna actually consider because of that. If they do end up buying, they should probably just buy the IPs, the IPs that they want to use, like Metal Gear, Silent Hill, even Castlevania and stuff like that. So I think that would be a smarter route for them to do if they were to do anything with Konami, because 5.5 and you get a lot of stuff outside of games. I don't know if Sony's gonna be interested in that. So my final verdict for Konami, if we're being realistic, Sony's probably just going to license out their IPs. I don't think Konami wants to sell those IPs. They can make a lot of money outside of just games. So if Sony is not going to buy Konami, the whole company, I don't think they can just buy the IPs like that. It'll be really hard. So they're probably just going to license it out to Sony. It seems like that's what they're doing with Silent Hill remake and the rumored, both are rumored, and the rumored Metal Gear Solid remake as well. So yeah, that's probably it for now unless they really want Konami. Number 2, we have Take-Two Interactive. This has actually been one of the companies a lot of fans have been talking about and pressuring Sony to try and buy. There was also a rumor last year where people were thinking that Sony was going to acquire them, which is definitely false. I mean, Take-Two is very, very big. Their market cap sits around 18 plus billion as of currently, and yeah, I mean, a lot of people just they want Sony to buy them after Bethesda with Microsoft. And just to take a look, Take-Two is definitely bigger than Bethesda. They own Rockstar Games. That includes GTA, Red Dead Redemption, Bully, and many other big IPs. They also have 2K Publisher and 2K Games, all of that. So they have Borderlands, they have Bioshock, they have Mafia, they have a lot of games. I'm just probably not remembering right now. And if we go through all of it, that's a lot. If Sony were to buy them, which they won't, I mean, let's just be realistic. Sony probably can't afford to spend that much money. We're talking about almost 20 billion just like that. That's more than half of what Sony has available to them right now to just spend liquid. And yeah, I just don't think it's happening. It's too much money. And there's a lot of other ways Sony can be aggressive and acquire studios without having to buy something as big as Take-Two. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous if you think about it. And I don't even think Sony like could make all of these games exclusive to PlayStation, because there's a lot of people who play them on Xbox, on PC and stuff. I mean, they'll probably still release it on PC if it happened, but yeah, as you guys saw the image on Twitter right here, people were talking about it, trying to make sense of it, and yeah, I agree with this person right here. It's just not happening. It's too much money. Microsoft have a lot more money. Maybe if Sony had the money Microsoft has, they probably could, but it just isn't the case. And if you were expecting this to happen, I'm sorry, but if we want to be realistic, it's just not gonna happen. Hey, I'm just trying to be objective here. So if you're thinking that Sony has as much money as Microsoft, then I'm sorry, but that's just not the case. So instead of dreaming about things that are probably not going to happen, let's actually look at something that could very well happen. Something Sony could do instead to be very aggressive and, overall just try and compete with less money. So if we look at this, like something that Sony could definitely do is just they can just try and be more strategic and smarter by acquiring smaller studios that are very skillful and that they can grow into larger, more skillful studios. Sony knows how to do this. Just look at their first party studios. A lot of them were small, but Sony knows how to grow them, how to acquire the talent. So they could just start with the small companies that aren't very well known, but that they can make games that look out of this world, and that'll be a steal for Sony. Because just look at it this way: instead of buying the cake, how about you learn how to make the cake so that you can actually just rely on yourself? And that just makes a lot of sense. If Sony wants to compete with Microsoft, instead of buying all the publishers, I don't want that to happen. I don't want all the publishers to be bought. I want Sony to instead focus on just buying studios that are small right now, but that in a few years grow to be one of the best, more talented studios in the industry. And that's kind of becoming obvious with Bluepoint games, and which I think Sony's gonna cop them, because look at Demon Souls. I mean, if you look at all the remakes before this, nothing compares to this, and I think it's just only gonna get better from this. If Sony's smart, they already bought them or are going to. And same thing with Housemarque. Small studios like that you see them not for much right now, but then later on they're making games that you can't not buy. You know what I mean? So stuff like that is what Sony should, I think, focus on. And really quickly, I just wanted to add something that adds more fuel to this topic about Sony making some big acquisition, in the coming months or whenever they're ready. So we know recently Sony has been doing a lot of deals with major third-party like companies and publishers, and we saw that actually with the Final Fantasy 16 deal. And there's a lot of publishers that were rumored by insiders that Sony approached, and even Starfield with Bethesda, but that's not going to happen anymore because of the Microsoft. But they also failed to buy Liu for $1.1 billion, as you guys can see right here. I'm showing you guys. And that's just money Sony was ready to pay right there. And they lost to Tencent, and now Sony just has money that they were going to use but didn't get to. And what do you think they're going to do with it now? Pocket it? No, they're definitely going to invest that money. They lost a lot of deals, probably. A lot of deals that they were probably considering that they're now changing because of this. So Sony definitely has at least $1.1 billion that they could have spent with that Liu buyout that didn't get to, but now could probably focus it on buying something else. So we know something's coming, and these are like clear signs that it's happening. And these aren't rumors, these are true. It's just stuff that was actually happening and that we were seeing on the news. And now it's just a matter of time to see what Sony actually does. But let's go on to the next, and number 3, which is Square-Enix for $7.9 billion at market cap today. So immediately, I think it's undeniable to say that Sony and Square Enix have a very close relationship. And when you look at something this size, even though you're thinking, well, it could happen because of their working relationship, I just don't know how likely it is. This will be around the same level as like Bethesda. They have a lot of games, Final Fantasy, many other games that you don't even know that they own. But yeah, Square Enix is really, really big, and it just works very well with Sony. They're both Japanese, the culture just works together and everything, I guess you could say. But if you were to ask me, I don't think this is gonna happen, simply because it's just too much money. It's just a lot of money, and Sony could probably just buy single studios and stuff like that and save a lot of money and still have like a lot of great additions to the worldwide studios. So yeah, I think we should just leave it at that for now, because honestly, I don't really see any signs to say this is gonna happen. I do have a long list here, so I'm just gonna try and go fast over them. So, for example, big publishers like EA and Activision, just know it's not gonna happen. It's would you even want it to happen too? Like, one, they cost way too much money, just a lot, an absurd amount, and trust me, you guys probably don't want it. CD Projekt, the company that owns CD Projekt Red, they're about $8 billion, and I don't think it's, there's a lot of value in that. Like, sure, CD Projekt Red is a very, very good publisher, and they have a lot of cool stuff, but I just don't think that, paying that much money for them essentially is gonna be worth it. We also have Ubisoft. Ubisoft is like $10 billion or something like that, and I don't think it's worth it. Ubisoft, I mean, they're right, they're not that bad, but at the same time, like, many people say, well, they can become better under Sony. It's like, really, I mean, how about we just get studios that can actually, grow to be better? I don't know. Ubisoft, I don't really want it to be the one that Sony buys. And okay, we look at Capcom. I think it would be really cool. Capcom has a lot of really cool IPs like Resident Evil, Street Fighter, just a lot of stuff. I don't want to name them all. And like I said, they're like $5 to $6 billion in market cap. So this is something that could very well happen, but I just don't know if it will be the first company Sony would approach. It just really all depends on what Sony is looking at, and what kind of deals they get with the company, and all the assets that they get and stuff like that. But Capcom, I actually prefer over a lot of these options that I provided here. And yeah, now we're gonna move on to one of the last ones that I wanted to talk about, which is more a little bit in the direction that I mentioned earlier of Sony buying studios instead of publishers. So, something like Bungie, I think, I don't know, it's maybe unrealistic, maybe it's just weird to even say, but Sony buying Bungie, I think, is really good, because I think Sony needs, more dedicated first-person shooter teams, and multiplayer teams that are going to make games that are different to the other, like, Sony exclusives. So, we're already used to the single player games from Sony. How about we get something like from Bungie or whatever? So Bungie, obviously the ones that make Destiny, they're original creators of Halo, so this would be quite a shock if Sony bought them. But I don't exactly find how much they're worth, but they earn around 100 to 500 million dollars in revenue per year, and that doesn't include profit. So obviously it's a lot, probably less than that for the profit. So yeah, they're just a really cool studio. I'll be really happy if Sony could buy, because I just think that the creative freedom that they're looking for, and as well as the financial backing, which, I mean, they kind of have it down for themselves, but like that added plus Sony, like, I just feel like a lot of great stuff could happen with that. Another one is FromSoftWare, and they're already owned by like another company, like Karakoa company or something like that, and maybe Sony can buy it off of them for like however much money they're worth. I think they could go from like anywhere. I know that, on their website they say they have 268 million yen, which is like $2 million. I mean, I don't know if that says anything about how much they're worth. I think FromSoftWare is definitely worth a lot more. If I were to throw guess, probably like in the 300 million range, or maybe less, maybe a lot less. I'm just kind of guessing here. Same thing with Bungie. They'll probably be like, probably in the high millions, probably like 600 to 700 million for Bungie. Who knows? Maybe less than that either. Maybe 500 or something. I'm just throwing guesses, but, I gave the information that I, found on them, and their revenue and stuff like that, but we don't know. But I actually wanted to ask you guys to please leave a comment on what is your favorite studios, or even publishers, if you want, that you want Sony to buy. I already mentioned some of my favorites. Like I said, I prefer if Sony were to buy like individual studios such as Bluepoint Games, Housemarque, Bungie's, FromSoftWare. If Sony were to buy those four, immediately I'll be like happy. That's it. I wouldn't need more after that. And like, let's say on top of that, cherry on top, they buy the IPs from Konami, like Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hill. Like, that's it. That's all I need. I want you guys to also name your favorite like developers that you want Sony to buy, or the ones that you think are likely. Whichever way you want to look at it, just name your favorite like developers and put it in the comments down below. I actually want to have like a conversation about this in the comments. I think it's really interesting, and I guess it's just a matter of time before we see what Sony does. I know Sony's gonna do something eventually, and you know, maybe somewhere in the Game Awards in December like they did with Insomniac last year. Who knows? We'll see. We just have to wait and see, man. Just be patient, guys. And at the end of the day, Sony still has a lot of great games. So even if they don't directly do anything big and buy, you know, a lot of studios all of a sudden, I can be happy with what they have right now. I don't think anybody can complain. Sony's in a really strong position, and like I said, Microsoft is the one playing catch up here. So yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys today. So if you guys really did appreciate it and enjoyed that conversation with me, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm going to have a lot of interesting conversations coming up on this topic, on other things that, you know, not everybody likes to go in depth on. So if you guys enjoyed it, do that and subscribe. I love every single one of you that watch and support me. But for now, this has been it. Thank you guys, and peace. Crack it.